We've done a pistol only run, we've done a bolt thrower only run, but how can we make this more difficult? I present to you the egg only run. Moving our way down the chain of Resident Evil 4 weapons, today we're answering the question you've all asked. Can you beat Resident Evil 4 with only your knife? Now this is my third Resident Evil 4 challenge video, so most of you are familiar with how I work these. But for those of you watching for the very first time, I'm treating these challenges similar to the minimalist achievement. This means I'm only allowed to use my knife as my primary weapon, but Leon can still suplex people and I can make use of explosives. That actually doesn't really apply to this run. Before I do jump into this run, I just want to say thank you for all the support in the recent videos, whether it was by commenting, liking, or simply watching the video. It means a lot to me that so many people are enjoying the videos. For those of you that are new, if you enjoy this video, then make sure to subscribe to get notified when I upload, because trust me, there are so many more challenges I have planned. Now, I went into this run with the same objective as I had in the bolt thrower only challenge, causing as much destruction as possible. I mean, sure, I could sneak past most of the enemies here and wait out the timer for the village, but where's the fun in that? Instead, I decided to run headfirst into the fire, killing everything in my way. I killed all of the gigantes so quickly that the chainsaw guy didn't even get close to me before the bell rung. One of my favorite enemies reappeared this run, but luckily didn't do any damage to me this time. Since the village posed no major challenge, I made my way to the farm in search of a worthy foe. And I found one. But it wasn't a minotaur. It was the lady that shoved her pitchfork so deep inside of me that she pulled out last week's kebab. Naturally, this was a smelly ordeal, so I had to use my first healing link spray. After I finished off her and her friends, I made my way across the bridge, killed the man following me, and then celebrated his death. Because my brain can only compute the next 10 seconds in life, I forgot to save my knife for the door into the shack that Luis is trapped in. So with no knife, I spent quite a bit of time trying to get a ganado to throw dynamite onto the landing. That didn't work. So in sheer frustration, I kicked the door multiple times and hey presto, it actually opened. Turns out you don't even need a knife. I saved our friend Luis and once again, our big friend took my gear. I killed a few of his thugs and opened the door to where my loot was held, only to be greeted by 3 high-grade Gordon Ramsay looking kitchen knives. It only got better from here because outside sat our favorite merchant friend. I needed my gear as much as a bald man needs a comb, so I sold it all except the hand cannon and Chicago sweeper. Again, it just feels like cheating since those guns are from different runs. I fully upgraded my knife for now and made my way into the next area to test it out. This area was actually very fun. I didn't kill absolutely everyone because I knew that I have to be somewhat conservative with my knives and their durability. I raised a gate, killed a few more ganados in the next area, and then failed at getting treasures. Since the chainsaw guy was going to be the first one I fought in this run, I thought I'd try my best to actually kill him even if it took all of my knives. Turns out I didn't even have to break a knife or a sweat. The explosives alone took away 90% of his health. I just had to finish him off. With another victory in my name, I went inside, stabbed the literal shit out of a guy, solved a puzzle, and then the big man beat me again. I've seen a lot of you guys in the comments mentioning that saving the doggo in this section is more detrimental than helpful on the El Gigante fight, since the dog resets the troll's health. So as much as it broke my heart, I had to leave him this time. Because leaving a dog trapped inside a bear trap wasn't enough animal abuse for one day, I stabbed a crow in the head and then challenged a pack of doggos to a fist fight. In an effort to save my knives for the fish pond up ahead, I ran past everyone on the bridge and then tried to be as quiet as Solid Snake to kill a few birds for treasures. The cowman posed no threat to my newly upgraded knife, nor did anyone else here for that matter. I got hit once or twice, but nothing major. After ruining the ganado's fish farm business, I stole their petrol, powered up my boat, and went out to hunt myself a big fishy. It's more of a salamander, but either way, a few harpoons and he went down. Chapter 4 is where the enemies begin to morph and get a bit more difficult. I met my first plague-infected enemy here. These guys actually proved to be harder than I thought they would since they can attack you from more of a range. In order to get into the church to save Ashley, I had to find 2 heads to get the church key. On my way to head number 1, I picked up a few groceries for the merchant, his eggs and fish, you know, the basics. I also picked up a red 9 to sell later on to him so we can upgrade our knife further. Head number 1 was easy to get. No enemies guarded that area at all. Head number 2 was a different story, however. I killed quite a few people on my way here. The more enemies I killed, the more money I got for upgrading my knife, so at least the future fights will be easier. After picking up head number 2 and getting the church key, I asked our friendly neighborhood merchant to repair my knife and buy my junk. I knew El Gigante wasn't going to be an easy fight, so I warmed myself up with some squats. Honestly, I've tried multiple ways to phrase how this fight went, explain it to you guys in a normal way, but I just chopped at his dick and ass for a solid 5 minutes. Look, it's not the most honorable thing I've done, and I know that, but a kill's a kill, okay? El Gigante struggled to make a mark on me since I was constantly under his legs. By the end of the fight, he had an ass like a wizard's sleeve. Now, if you don't want me to... Wait, I probably can't say that in here actually. Okay, if you don't want El Gigante to come for you, then I recommend hitting that subscribe button down below to get updated when I upload in the future. I've got plenty more challenges coming for both Resident Evil and newer games. It's very important to do a warm-up before every exercise, but it's arguably more important to do a cooldown afterwards. After defeating El Gigante, I knew nothing was impossible, so I made my way back to the church, solved the puzzle, and rescued Ashley. Well, there goes our chances of sneaking around with fucking Clank over here. Clank and I made our way outside. Since Ashley alerts everyone in a 10-mile vicinity with her armored suit, I decided to fight my way out. One good thing that I did notice about her suit is that my knife bounces off of it, so even when she's close by and I accidentally hit her, she doesn't take damage. Is this because of assisted or because of her suit? If you guys know, let me know in the comments. Assisted or not, fighting such a large number of gigantes proved difficult. I had to heal a few times in this area alone. After killing a few enemies and running past the rest, Ashley and I hunkered down in Luis's mansion. This was my favorite section in the entire run. Close quarters with the knife, as you'd imagine, makes it extremely fun. There aren't any enemies with annoying shields, not many mutated plague enemies, and no bugs. This is also one of those sections where no matter how much you run, you have to eventually stop and fight, and that we did. We killed so many enemies in this area. By the time the Minotaur Brute came, we were fully warmed up and took him down in seconds. After hearing about what I did to his Minotaur brother, the next cowman wasn't so happy. He genuinely kicked the shit out of me. 3 times actually. Between the Minotaur beating me to the floor and the gigantes throwing Molotovs on top of me, this section was pretty hard. Of course, I could have just run past them all, but that wouldn't be as fun. Plus, I wasn't worried about my knife durability after the upgrades. In the next section, chaos ensued. I figured the best way to tackle the chainsaw girls was head on, so naturally I started frantically stabbing the air. This worked pretty well and the first one went down in no time. The second one was an absolute meat shield though. It only took me stabbing her 100 times to make her fall. Those chainsaw girls were only the warm-up however, because up next we had to fight Mendes. I repaired my knife at the merchant and stocked up on first aid sprays before entering the barn. Just like per Gigante, Mendes too had his dick chopped off. In fact, I chopped his entire lower body off. It didn't take a large amount of damage to bring him into his second phase. This was going better than I hoped. The second phase wasn't as easy as you can imagine. I couldn't dodge any of his explosive barrels, the blast radius just kept hitting me, which forced me to use plenty of heals. He's way too far away to deal any damage with the knife, so I had to wait until he got close for me to ram my knife inside of him, which was less frequent than you'd think. I do have to say, this barn has been on fire for quite some time now. Whoever constructed this needs a raise. Amazing. After what felt like an hour of running around, getting hit, and healing up, Mendes jumped closer and I managed to finish him off with the knife. In Chapter 7, we met another mutation of the Plaga inside the castle. I feel like these guys are going to be tough going forward, especially in large groups. After killing the Plaga and celebrating, I did manage to pick up a boot knife, which is a better weapon than the standard kitchen knife we've been using so far. Ashley and I dodged a few catapults. Actually, a lot more than normal since we couldn't take any of them out. After meeting Salazar inside and dealing with his friends, Leon fell through the floorboards and we met a Garrador. Finally, a worthy opponent. Knife versus knives. You know, I could have been careful here about this fight, but that's just no fun. I had plenty of heals to help if I got hurt bad, so instead I went straight in with the knife. It took me 2 heals in the end, but that wasn't too difficult. For my efforts, the game gave me the Never Heard It Coming achievement for defeating a Garrador with only a knife. I had to solve a puzzle up ahead, which consisted of shooting things at range, so I used an egg. I mean, surely that doesn't count, does it? Unfortunately, the next room was a little bit more difficult, and I had to use more than just an egg. After battling my way through an army of gigantes, I made my way to the section where you're supposed to protect Ashley as she raises the hidden platforms. Either because I'm playing unassisted or because of her metal armor, whenever a gigante picked her up, they could only hold her for a few seconds before she fell off their shoulders. I tried to use this tactic of waiting around until she felt clear of all the enemies, but she kept cowering instead. I reloaded my save and tried again with a few different tactics and even calling her to come closer, but none of it worked. It only occurred to me a few chapters later that I could have just used a flashbang to stun everyone and let her run by. I feel like that probably would have been the best approach for this section. But instead, because I only had nades on my person and half a brain, I blew everybody up just to let her finish her sequence. I am curious though, do you guys know of any way this can be beaten without anything at all? Without flashbangs, without grenades, without weapons? Let me know down below in the comments because I'm genuinely curious. For failing this run, and you guys actually stabbed me. After failing the challenge, I was as angry as a mosquito at a mannequin factory. So I bought some body armor and jumped right into the flames. The crimson flames. Sorry, that was bad. I felt a bit better after taking the zealot down, but the next section took that away. Bridge weights. I did not think about these guys prior to doing this run. I spent ages thinking of ways I could do damage to the weight. Flashbangs didn't even work this time. So instead, as a last resort, I bought the bolt thrower since I felt like this wasn't cheating the run. It's not really killing an enemy, just lowering a bridge. Again, if you guys know of any other way, let me know in the comments because I might be able to use it for a future run. It was about this time I remember the merchant has upgraded gear after the maze, so I started my castle rampant speedrun and I made my way to the cannon on top of the wall. I made sure to only kill the troll with the cannon, not the zealots below. After saving Baby Eagle and killing a few doggos in the maze, I went back to the merchant to finish my knife upgrades. This left me with only the exclusive upgrade to get. Being Resident Evil, Ashley and I had to collect 3 heads to open a nearby door. The snake head was simple, no enemies encountered. The lion head was easy too. I thought the enemies in armor would pose more of a threat, but between the knives' upgraded attack speed and Ashley's blue fire, they didn't last long. The next room with the goat head was the hardest. Not because the enemies were overly difficult, mainly because of the sheer number of them. They just kept spawning. Every time I finished one wave off, another one spawned to take its place. After using Gordon Ramsay's entire kitchen knife set, I climbed my way up to the zealot in red and broke my knife off in his neck. I grabbed a goat head and went back to the main area. You would think that since Ashley is dressed up as a knight and has her full armor kit on, that these guys would just ignore me and treat me as their own. That was not the case. Ashley's section wasn't overly notable. I solved a few puzzles and saved Leon before getting kidnapped again. Now, back in chapter 7, I faced my first Garrador. That was challenging and took 2 heals. So how challenging will 2 Garradors be, you ask? Extremely challenging. This was an absolute clusterfuck. I didn't even try to be tactical about it. I just went in and started stabbing. Turns out that was their plan too. It really came down to who had the most heals to outlive the others. After using 5 full bottles of Link's first aid spray, both Wolverines were dead. As Leon's treat for killing the Garradors, Salazar threw us into the sewer. After navigating the sewer and killing a few invisible enemies, I sold all my treasures and gear to the merchant in exchange for the knife's exclusive upgrade. With my new 1.5 times attack speed upgrade, I was ready to take on Verdugo. I was worried about going into this fight since I forgot to repair my armor. Verdugo is incredibly fast and uses close range attack. Oh, he's dead. That was easy. Anyway, Luis and I made our way into the tunnels to test out my new exclusive knife upgrade on some normal ganados. It was fast. Really fast. Through our experimentation, we also found out that you can blow up dynamite with the knife. I tried this earlier in the lake section and couldn't, so you learn something new every day. Satisfied with our experiment, we took care of a few boulders more efficiently than Chris Redfield did and made our way to the gigante fight. 2 gigantes, 1 knife. Double the attack speed also means double the dick cutting. The first troll didn't stand a chance, he went down way too quickly. As most things in this run go, the second wasn't as easy. You see, the second armored troll had his dick protected, and his legs, and arms, and everything. He had his ass clamped shut like Scrooge's purse strings. The only bit he didn't have protected is his face, which is too high up to hit. Even when he does a ground pound, there's no way to get a stab in on his face and deal damage. I did manage to hurt him when he picked me up once, but this was way too inconsistent. The explosive that Luis placed was just dangling there like the first troll's balls, but I couldn't make it explode. I spent about 20 minutes trying different techniques to blow up the TNT to no avail. Since the explosive doesn't kill the troll and there's no other way to damage him, I used my bolt thrower to hit it. Once he was down, he was a much easier target and I finished him off with my knife. So before you all jump into the comments, he died by my knife. Up next was the railcard section with Luis. As per my previous challenges, the first section went pretty well. The second section didn't though, since there is a chainsaw guy and you have to use the red 9 to shoot him. I did initially let him kill me, which spawned me closer to the end with full health. I figured I might be able to make it now with more health, but with the amount of damage his chainsaw deals per blow, there was just no way. So rather than killing him with the red 9, I decided to only shoot him to offset his balance. To redeem myself, I beat up Krauser. This was genuinely the easiest knife fight so far. Inside Salazar's tower, it went about as you'd expect. I only got flattened twice by the big spiky ball while killing my way up the stairs like John Wick. On the elevator, I wasn't able to kill any of the archers or the red zealot, so I had to be constantly moving and attacking. Do you guys remember how easy Verdugo was to fight? His master wasn't any better, albeit Salazar was a bit harder to deal damage to since he constantly scaled the walls like fucking Spider-Man. But once he did come close enough, it only took a few stabs to knock him down. I stabbed his main eye 3 times and that was it. Salazar was no more. With Luis dead and Ashley still captured, I made haste and used speedrun tactics to bypass the first laser in the factory. Inside, I destroyed a brute minotaur, killed a man on fire and got the level 1 keycard. You know what that means. Regenerados. I was dreading this from the start, but apparently you guys say it's easier to kill them with the knife than it is the bolt thrower. And you guys were right. That was surprisingly easy. Sure, 1 Regenerado was easy, but what about taking on 4 in a row? You know, these aren't half as hard with the knife. It's almost easier than using a pistol. I found a wrench on the 2nd Regenerado, but I was feeling it now, so I kept on killing, celebrated a little, then killed some more. I saved Ashley once again and we went on our travels to find Salazar. I was so comfortable with killing the Regenerados at this stage I didn't even tell Ashley to hide in the next section. With the Regenerados finished, Miley Cyrus burst open a wall for us, she got captured, and I made my way to fight Krauser. The first section of this fight was way more difficult than previous runs, simply because I can't shoot any turrets to stop them from mowing me down. I can't disarm any lasers and I can't shoot Krauser to stop him from annihilating me with a bow. Sure, I could have used flashbangs or nades to kill turrets and mines since they weren't people, but I decided it was more fun to take the hit. Krauser's first phase was pretty straightforward. I lunged at him with my upgraded knife and just kept stabbing. Leon has so much stamina he gives Johnny Sins a run for his money. His second phase wasn't much harder, a bit disappointing really. I initially used a combat knife at the start to take away a large portion of his health quickly. Once that broke, I just had to do a bit more damage to finish him off. As a reward for killing my former major, I was granted a new fighting knife. I brought this new knife to our merchant friend and he upgraded it for me. I was pretty short in cash though, so I had to go looting to get things fully upgraded. Mike flew in compliments of Hunnigan, but I didn't let him get many kills. I wanted to test out my new fighting knife and it was definitely better than the combat knife, without being fully upgraded too. After slaughtering an entire village, I made my way into the next section where I had to blow up the AA gun shooting Mike. Last run I was able to use the bolt thrower's proximity mines to skip this section. Unfortunately, this time it was harder. There were so many enemies here, they just kept coming and coming. To make things worse, I wasn't even able to kill the turrets or RPG guys shooting me at range. But with Mike back in the air, I opened the next section and we made it through. Barely. Mike lasted all of 20 seconds, something I can relate to. I upgraded my fighting knife a bit more and then saved Ashley. Now the real fight begins. The final fight with Sadler. I talked to the merchant one more time. I repaired all my gear, traded 20 spindles for treasures, and sold everything I had for 105k. With this, I upgraded my fighting knife fully and bought the exclusive upgrade for 2 times the power. I was bracing myself going into the Sadler fight. I was expecting it to be either impossible to stab his weak spots or expecting it to take ages to deal damage to him. Not long after he jumped down, I had 2 of his weak spots popped and managed to stab at his main eye a few times. It only got harder from here though. He jumped up onto a platform and sent his creepy crawly minions at me. I was struggling to get a hit into him for quite a bit since he kept jumping so far away and didn't give me any opportunity. So when he did finally jump down to my level, I pounced at him. It only took 1 knife stab to pop his weak spots and that was it? I only stabbed his main eye twice. That was way too easy. Normally the boss's first phases are easy and the second phases are harder, but for Sadler it's the other way around. Now that he was in phase 2, all I had to do was dodge for a little bit and shoot a rocket launcher into his eye. There we have it. Challenge complete. Kind of. Did we complete Resident Evil 4 with only a knife?
Not this time.
Although it can most certainly be done if you come prepared and make a few adjustments to the rules of your run. In Chapter 7, when I was protecting Ashley while she raised the platforms, I had to use nades to kill the enemies that I couldn't reach. This could have been prevented by either using flashbangs to stun them or modifying your rules of the run to allow you to shoot but not kill enemies. Similar to this, I had to use the bolt thrower to lower the weights on the gates to get into the castle ramparts. If this wasn't a strict run, this could definitely be done. What other challenges do you guys have for Resident Evil? I've seen a few, such as playing without the merchant, without the attach case, and more, so let me know down below in the comments what you want to see next. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, then drop a like down below and subscribe to get notified when I release future content. I said it at the start of the video and I'm going to say it again, but thank you guys for all the support in the last 2 videos. It really means a lot. Hopefully you enjoyed this one as much as you did the last 2. Thank you all very much for watching. Until next time. Resident Evil 4 Remake I did was pistols only, and that was fun. However, it was pretty easy considering the SG-09R is actually a solid weapon to use, especially when fully upgraded. So I thought to myself, how can I make this more difficult? Sure, increasing the difficulty was always an option, but that didn't seem as fun. So I thought, what's the next worst weapon after the pistol? Can you beat the Resident Evil 4 Remake with